I understand that my recovery from this illness came from the merit of chanting the Buddha's name and practicing wholesome deeds. Yesterday, I called to ask about the health of a former classmate whom I had not spoken with for more than 30 years. Coincidentally, she was ill at the time, so she complained to me.
The air is everywhere, yet breathing it in is so difficult. It feels as if something is blocking my throat. Every breath in and out takes effort. It is unbearably uncomfortable.
Because we live hundreds of kilometers apart, all I could do was comfort and encourage her. I advised her to go see a doctor and to take her medicine carefully according to the physician's instructions. She told me she had already gone for a checkup, but after taking the medicine she felt terrible and vomited badly. I advised her to return for another examination so that she could receive more suitable treatment. Hearing her sigh in discouragement, I was reminded of the words of a great wise man of old, "I have great suffering because I have this body." Indeed, having been born into this temporary world, who can avoid pain and illness at least a few times in life? That is only speaking of those who are fortunate enough to fall ill only occasionally. As for the unfortunate and less blessed, some suffer from sickness all their lives, spending their entire human existence in darkness and agony, writhing in pain from illness, never once experiencing the feeling of a healthy, strong body, being able to eat well, sleep peacefully, and comfortably enjoy the good things life has to offer. Such lives are truly pitiful and heartbreaking. Looking at others made me think of myself. More than 20 years ago, I too was someone who seemed to have been born under an unlucky star. Illness came to me very early, from the time I had just begun first grade. I suffered from asthma. In my childhood memories, I can never forget how those asthma attacks tormented me. Exactly as my friend described, although the air was vast and everywhere, my lungs could not take it in easily. My ribs had to strain, my nostrils flared desperately to draw in a little more air, my abdomen swelled and contracted just so I could breathe while my airways and bronchial tubes tightened and mucus secretion increased. The sound of air passing through blocked, narrowed passages created wheezing, rasping, and rattling noises, truly unbearable, like torture. When the illness struck, even if I wanted to lie down, I could not. I had to sit upright, leaning my head against the wall or the bed frame, enduring it. Once the attack passed, my body would become limp, my limbs weak, my face pale and greenish. Everything I did felt exhausting, and I had no appetite at all. It was utterly miserable, and asthma tormented me from childhood through my adult years. There was not a single month without an attack. The days of the full moon, what people in folk belief call the coming of the high tide, were the times I feared most. No matter where I ran, I could not escape this cruel illness. In the middle of the night, if my eyes suddenly itched, my throat became itchy, and I sneezed a few times. Then the shortness of breath would come charging in like a herd of wild horses trampling over my fragile lungs. When your leg hurts, you cry out. When you are sick, you seek medicine. I underwent every kind of treatment imaginable, from traditional Eastern medicine to Western medicine, careful dieting, climate changes, physical therapy, and sports exercise. All of these methods only brought temporary relief. After some time, the asthma would flare up again. I still remember very clearly the first time I took asthma medicine. I was about 6 years old and had an attack during the daytime. While I was sitting miserably, gripping the sides of a chair and wheezing, a relative of mine who worked selling Western medicine came to visit. Seeing my condition, he gave me half a tablet of asthma medicine to take. About half an hour later, I felt better, and the shortness of breath disappeared. It was such a wonderful relief. From then on, I always carried Western asthma medicine in my shirt pocket, so that whenever an attack came, I could immediately take it. But every medicine has side effects. Each time I used Western medicine to stop an attack, my hands and feet trembled, my heart pounded like a galloping horse, and my eyes stayed wide open. I could not sleep at all. After using the medicine for a long time, my body developed resistance, so I had to increase the dosage. The side effects became even worse. Eventually, even high doses no longer worked, and I had to switch to asthma medicine containing corticosteroids combined with bronchodilators to stop the attacks. This type of medicine was highly effective, but the side effects of corticosteroids made my life even more miserable. Repeated infections caused by a weakened immune system brought constant coughing and fever. One episode would barely end before another would come, leaving me utterly exhausted. My face became swollen and round like a full moon, covered in acne, and my stomach developed ulcers. Later, inhalers that sprayed medicine directly into the throat became available. They had fewer side effects, but they only relieved the attacks temporarily and locally. They could not solve the root cause of the illness. That was my experience with Western medicine. As for Eastern medicine, I tried countless kinds of herbal remedies, Chinese medicine, Vietnamese folk medicine, official prescriptions, and folk asthma treatments. I tasted and used them all, yet the disease did not improve, it only grew worse with time. One day, after reading a book about physical training for health, I decided to learn martial arts in hopes of strengthening my body against this cruel illness. But it was still useless. Even after pursuing traditional martial arts for more than 5 years, combined with lifting dumbbells and weights, asthma still would not spare me. Every day, I still had to use inhalers to stop the attacks. I even practiced yoga, but it did nothing for this illness. At times, I became so discouraged that I wanted to seek death just to escape this endless suffering. But my instinct to live was too strong, and it kept me from carrying out such foolish thoughts. That was my childhood and youth, a miserable stretch of life from which I would never have escaped if not for the Buddha's teachings. When I was over 30 years old, I was fortunate to meet a Buddhist lay practitioner who specialized in meditation practice. Under that person's guidance, I came to Buddhism. After many visits to the temple to bow to the Buddha, make offerings, and study the Dharma, I gradually understood that my illness was karmic illness, and that only by practicing according to the Buddha's teachings could I hope to escape it. Besides adopting a vegetarian diet, bowing to the Buddha, and practicing wholesome deeds, I also meditated every night and before dawn. I practiced meditation using mindfulness of breathing, counting and observing the breath in and out so that the mind could become concentrated. After practicing meditation in this way for nearly 2 years, my mind gradually became peaceful. Although the suffering of illness was still there, I no longer felt discouraged or resentful toward heaven and earth. I willingly accepted the karmic retribution I had created in the past. One day, a Buddhist devotee gave me a set of basic Buddhist studies compiled by Venerable Tt.H. This collection provided a great deal of knowledge about Buddhist teachings. One day, while reading the section on meditation, I paid special attention to a sentence by the author: "Meditation combined with Buddha recitation is like a tiger with wings." Suddenly I thought, all this time I had been practicing meditation through mindfulness of breathing. Although I had gained some concentration, my suffering from illness had not ceased. Now hearing the teacher say that reciting the Buddha's name carries immeasurable merit, why not combine meditation with Buddha recitation to increase my blessings? Perhaps, thanks to this merit, I might be healed. So I decided to observe my breathing while also reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha. In addition to combining meditation with Buddha recitation, I continued to practice wholesome deeds regularly. In particular, I often went out of my way to gather medicinal herbs and donate them to a Buddhist hermitage that provided free traditional medicine treatment to poor people. In my free time, I also went there to help decoct the herbs, dry them, and pack them into bags for storage so they could be used in treatment. Time passed quickly. After 2 years of persistent meditation combined with Buddha recitation, one day while I was practicing in stillness, I suddenly caught a brief glimpse of Amitabha Buddha, radiant in golden light. The image only appeared for about a quarter of a second, but it filled me with immense joy and happiness. However, I remembered that the patriarchs had advised practitioners not to become attached to such visions, because in many cases they may be deceptive manifestations of demonic forces. So I continued practicing both meditation and Pure Land together without wavering, until the year 1992. On the feast day of Amitabha Buddha, that night, after finishing my prostrations, I continued sitting in meditation and reciting the Buddha's name. After 45 minutes of concentrated recitation, I suddenly felt a warm current flowing from the crown of my head down through my entire body. It was incredibly soothing and pleasant. After completing my practice session, I went to sleep, feeling a sense of physical and mental ease I had never experienced before. That night, I dreamed that Amitabha Buddha reached out and gently stroked my head. He looked at me with eyes of boundless compassion. When I awoke, I was overjoyed beyond words. Deep in my heart, I thought, perhaps Amitabha Buddha had truly come to bless me and help me escape the suffering of this long-standing illness. And from that day onward, I no longer had to take those asthma pills with all their side effects. I no longer had to carry an inhaler everywhere I went. I lived freely, like a bird released from the confinement of a narrow cage. My miraculous recovery astonished many people, especially my relatives and family members. The nickname they used to call me, Asthma no longer suited me. Now they gave me a new nickname, Temple, because I often went to the temple to practice. From the day I recovered until now, 20 years have passed, and my asthma has never returned. I can say with certainty that I have been healed, and I understand that this healing came from the merit of chanting the Buddha's name, diligent meditation practice, and performing wholesome deeds. Today, in retelling my life story, I wish to send this message to anyone unfortunate enough to be suffering from illness. Please persevere in living, and practice according to the Buddha's teachings. Sooner or later, you will surely be freed from the suffering of illness.